You bought it because it felt like the right bike at the right time. And for a while it was. But there's a specific moment most older riders remember. It's not a crash. It's not a breakdown. It's just a ride that didn't feel right anymore. The arms got tired earlier than they used to. The lower back started talking halfway through. And somewhere in a parking lot, moving at 2 miles an hour, something shifted. These 7 motorcycles aren't bad bikes. Some of them are genuinely excellent machines. But they have a way of slowly, quietly becoming too much. Not all at once, gradually. And that's what makes it harder to admit. Let's start with a bike that sells confidence in the showroom, and something else entirely on a long Saturday ride. KTM 1290 Super Adventure. Walk into a KTM dealer, and that 1290 Super Adventure looks like it can do anything. Tall, muscular, loaded with technology. It genuinely can do almost anything. That's not the problem. The problem is what happens after about 60 miles when you're no longer in the mood to work for it. This is a bike that wants to be ridden with intention. It rewards riders who are sharp, alert, slightly aggressive. And when you're having a good day, it feels extraordinary. But here's what many older riders don't expect. The seat height catches people off guard stops. Even with it lowered, riders on the shorter side find themselves doing an awkward tippy-toe dance at red lights. That moment of uncertainty at 0 miles an hour, repeated 20 times on a city ride, quietly drains your confidence. The riding position puts you slightly forward. Not aggressively so, but enough that after 90 minutes, wrists start to carry weight they shouldn't. The wind protection is decent, but not excellent at highway speeds, and that low-frequency vibration from the parallel twin. Some riders love it, others find it oddly exhausting over long distances. Then there's the electronics. Cornering ABS, traction control, multiple riding modes. It sounds like a comfort package, and technically it is, but there's a mental overhead that comes with a machine this complex. Older riders sometimes describe it as feeling like they're managing the bike rather than just riding it. Some owners genuinely adore the 1290 for years. Fit plays a huge role here. Taller riders with long inseams rarely struggle the same way. But for a rider somewhere in their mid-50s, slightly shorter, maybe carrying a bit more hip tightness than they used to, this bike has a way of becoming quietly exhausting before the destination arrives. Harley-Davidson Ultra Limited. This one's different because it doesn't feel like a problem at first. It feels like a reward. The Ultra Limited is comfortable in ways most motorcycles aren't even trying to be. Heated seats, heated grips, massive wind protection, a stereo that actually works at highway speeds. Riders come off a naked bike or a sport tourer, and the first few hundred miles feel like a revelation. And then the weight makes itself known. Not on the highway. The Ultra is actually stable and composed out there. It's everything else. Pulling out of a gas station at a slight angle. Slow U-turns in a parking lot. Moving it backward out of tight garage spot. This is where 900 plus pounds starts to feel like a negotiation. Many riders around 55 or 60 handle this confidently for years. But there's a window, and it's different for every rider, where the muscle memory that used to make heavy bikes feel manageable starts to fade slightly. Reaction time drops a fraction. Core strength isn't what it was. And suddenly a bike that felt planted starts feeling precarious in slow speed situations. The seat is genuinely comfortable for the first hour and a half. After that, the pressure distribution, specifically across the lower back and tailbone, becomes something you're actively thinking about. You shift your weight, adjust your posture, sit more upright, lean slightly left. None of it quite fixes it. Harley riders are famously loyal, and that loyalty is earned. For some people, this is still the only bike they'd ever want. But a surprising number quietly stop taking it on long solo rides and can't quite explain why. Ducati Multistrada V4. Honestly, the Multistrada V4 might be the most deceptive bike on this list because it genuinely feels comfortable at first. Upright position, quality suspension, sophisticated electronics that smooth out the road beneath you. Sit on it in the showroom, and it feels like a machine designed specifically for real-world riding. And in many ways, it is. The problem lives in the engine character. That V4 has a personality. It's vibrant, alive, almost buzzy in a way that feels exciting on the first ride and strangely wearing on the fifth. Many riders describe a kind of whole-body fatigue after a few hours that doesn't match how comfortable the ergonomics should theoretically make them feel. It's not pain exactly, more like a low-level physical conversation the bike is having with your hands, your seat, your feet, constantly. Add in the seat, which is firm in ways Italian designers seem to consider virtuous, and long rides start extracting a toll around the 2-hour mark. The electronics are impressive. Radar-assisted adaptive cruise, cornering lights, semi-active suspension. But this is also one of the most complex motorcycles ever made for public roads. Owning it long-term means software updates, dealer-level diagnostics, and service costs that make older riders sometimes feel like they're maintaining a relationship rather than a motorcycle. To be fair, younger riders with sportier backgrounds often find this bike completely comfortable. Some experienced touring riders genuinely love it. But for an older rider coming from a more relaxed touring machine, the V4's constant energy can slowly become something you ride around rather than enjoy. The next bike surprises almost everyone who buys one because it looks neutral, approachable, almost too simple to cause problems. Yamaha MT-09. The MT-09 looks like a bike that's grown up. It's not a sport bike, not a cruiser, just a naked roadster with a strong engine and an accessible price. Riders who want something fun without feeling committed to a category often land here. And initially, it delivers exactly that. But there's something Yamaha doesn't advertise in the brochure. This engine is almost too responsive for relaxed riding. The throttle in the lower gears, even the mildest riding mode, has a snap to it. Not dangerously so, but enough that stop-and-go traffic becomes a series of micro-corrections. After an hour in city riding, your right wrist is tired in a way that has nothing to do with distance. The seating position is where it gets personal. The pegs are mid-set, which is fine, but the reach forward is slightly awkward for riders with shorter torsos. The arms end up taking a posture that feels neutral at 30 minutes and actively uncomfortable at 90. Wrist pressure, shoulder tension, that specific ache just above the lower back. Highway riding is actually better. The engine smooths out. The wind isn't catastrophic, but there's no protection, none. And riding into a headwind at 70 miles an hour for 2 hours isn't something your neck and shoulders forgive easily past a certain age. Younger riders in cities often love the MT-09 without reservation. It's genuinely fun, quick, and honest. But an older rider who puts on real miles, long weekend rides, multi-hour journeys, tends to start noticing that this bike was designed for enthusiasm, not endurance. Honda Africa Twin. The Africa Twin is one of those bikes that the motorcycle community treats almost like a religion. It has genuine fans who will defend it with the kind of energy usually reserved for personal beliefs. And those fans aren't wrong. It's a capable, thoughtful, well-built machine. But here's what gets quietly overlooked. The Africa Twin is tall, very tall. For average height riders, the seat height on the standard version means flat footing isn't happening. Toes only, sometimes 1 foot. And that's fine when you feel sharp. When you're tired, returning from a long day, navigating an unexpected obstacle at low speed, that reach to the ground creates a small but real margin for error. Some riders lower it. Aftermarket solutions exist. But even then, the bike's mass, around 500 pounds with fuel, needs to be managed at low speeds with deliberate technique. The riding position is upright and feels excellent at first. Adventure ergonomics done well. But the seat, particularly on longer rides, has a pressure point that develops somewhere around mile 80. Not the whole seat, a specific spot slightly off-center left where the foam density seems to disagree with human anatomy after extended sitting. Many Africa Twin owners eventually go straight for an aftermarket seat without even waiting. The parallel twin engine is smooth and unintimidating. That's actually what draws many older riders to it. But there's a vibration at highway cruise, around 65 to 70 miles per hour, that settles into the handlebars in a way that subtly numbs the hands over time. Many riders notice it after about an hour. Some don't notice until they stop. Honestly, the Africa Twin is a genuinely good motorcycle. But the ownership reality for older riders involves more management than the adventure bike image suggests. Triumph Rocket 3. Let's talk about something that almost no one admits publicly about the Rocket 3. It's an astonishing machine. 2,500 cubic centimeters. More torque than almost anything on two wheels. In a straight line, in the right conditions, there may be nothing more satisfying. But getting it to that straight line requires moving 700 pounds through whatever the world throws at you first. Parking lots are where this bike reveals itself. Not dramatically, not with a drop, just with a kind of quiet physical negotiation that starts the moment you swing your leg over. The low seat is actually deceptively reassuring until you realize how far the weight falls outward during a slow turn. U-turns require a specific physical commitment. Riders who've done it 100 times do it fine. Riders having an off day, tired, slightly distracted. The margin for error is narrow in a way that heavier bikes always create. The riding position is relaxed and genuinely comfortable for the first hour. Feet slightly forward, wrists at a reasonable angle, good back support, but the vibration from that massive triple, particularly in the mid-range RPMs, is not subtle. It travels through the seat and the bars in a way that becomes a kind of background noise your body absorbs without fully processing. After 2 hours, riders often feel more tired than the ergonomics should explain. Some Rocket 3 owners ride this bike into their late 60s with pure joy. The torque at low RPMs means you rarely need to work the gearbox in traffic. That's a genuine advantage. But for riders whose upper body strength has changed, whose confidence at slow speeds has quietly shifted, this bike demands something specific from you every time you ride it. And then there's a bike that hides its problems longer than anything else on this list. Kawasaki Concours 14. The Concours 14 looks like the answer to everything. Sport touring, real performance, reasonable price for what it offers. Experienced riders who want capability without paying European prices often end up here, and it genuinely delivers. Fast, stable, well protected from wind. The engine is strong and composed. For the first year of ownership, many riders consider it the best decision they've made. The problems arrive later. The fairing and wind protection are excellent for the body, but there's a buffeting issue at certain helmet heights that creates a low-grade headache-inducing turbulence around the head and neck. Not every rider, not every helmet, but commonly enough that it has its own thread on almost every Concours forum online. Many riders spend months trying different windshield heights and angles before accepting it as a management problem rather than a solved one. The seat, at 2 hours, starts a specific conversation with the tailbone. Hard, flat, a shape that seems designed by someone who has never actually sat on it for a full afternoon. Replacement seats are practically a rite of passage for Concours ownership. The weight, around 650 pounds, handles well at speed. But in slow traffic, in a parking garage, reversing on a slight incline, the bike requires active physical management. And that changes as riders get older. There's also the tucked riding position. Forward lean, wrists bearing some load. For younger riders, this feels sporty and precise. For older riders, 2 or 3 hours into a ride, this posture creates a specific fatigue in the upper back and shoulders that becomes hard to ignore. The Concours 14 is a bike that rewards younger, stronger riders on aggressive sport tours. Older riders often describe owning it as a slightly complicated relationship. Great days, genuinely great days, and other days where you wish the bike met you a little more halfway. Here's the honest truth about all 7 of these motorcycles. None of them are bad. Every single one has passionate, loyal riders who would push back on everything said here. And they wouldn't be wrong either. Bikes are personal. Body size, riding history, fitness, pain tolerance, expectations, everything changes the equation. But there's a pattern that shows up again and again when older riders talk honestly about stepping away from a motorcycle they once loved. It's never one dramatic moment. It's a slow accumulation of small discomforts. The parking lot hesitation that wasn't there before. The lower back that starts the conversation at mile 70 instead of mile 150. The second guessing at a slow U-turn that used to feel automatic. These are the moments that matter. Not the spec sheet, not the showroom experience. The Tuesday evening ride, when everything fell just slightly harder than it should. If you're an older rider and something on this list felt familiar, that recognition is worth paying attention to. Not because you have to stop riding, but because the right bike can give you years back. The wrong one quietly takes them.